The Galactic Council was a monument to power and order, its towering chamber built from materials older than some stars. Representatives from countless species filled the vast hall, their languages harmonizing in a cacophony of alien tongues, all subservient to the Council's authority. Humanity's delegation, a small group of 5, stood in stark contrast to the grandeur around them. For a species so young on the galactic stage, their presence was tolerated rather than welcomed. But today, they were at the center of attention, for reasons both dire and deliberate. The demand had arrived weeks earlier, an ornate transmission bearing the seal of the Council. Its message was clear: humanity was required to offer tribute, a symbolic gesture of submission to the greater galactic order. Other species had long participated in this ritual, surrendering treasures that spoke to their uniqueness. Planets teeming with rare resources, ancient artifacts imbued with history, or technologies that promised new horizons. To the Council, it was a tradition of unity. To humanity, it was a declaration of supremacy thinly veiled as diplomacy. Dr. Elena Cass sat at the head of the crowded Earth Council chamber, her sharp gaze scanning the room as heated arguments filled the air. She had spent her life unraveling the complexities of language and culture, but even her expertise couldn't untangle the knot of fear and defiance choking the discussion. Nations bickered over what could be offered, what should be offered, what humanity could afford to lose. "It's not just tribute," President Adebayo said, his voice heavy with frustration. "It's a symbol. If we refuse, we paint a target on our back. And if we comply," countered General Martinez, leaning forward, his hands gripping the table, "we set a precedent. They'll bleed us dry, bit by bit, until we're nothing more than servants." The room erupted again, voices colliding in a chaotic storm. Elena raised her hand, her voice cutting through with practiced precision. "Enough." Silence fell as she stood, her presence commanding attention. "We're looking at this the wrong way. This isn't just about what we can give, it's about what we stand for." She let her words settle before continuing. "The Council expects tribute as a show of submission. But we don't have their wealth, their history, or their resources. What we have is an idea, an identity. That's what we need to defend." "What are you suggesting?" asked Ambassador James Ward, his tone cautious but intrigued. Ward was a seasoned diplomat, his calm demeanor masking a sharp mind. He had seen the cost of compromise in countless negotiations and knew when to listen. "We respond with a statement," Elena said. "A single, undeniable truth about who we are. Something that isn't gold or technology but carries more weight than anything they expect." The room buzzed with uncertainty, but Ward's eyes narrowed with understanding. "You're saying we refuse." "I'm saying we choose," Elena corrected, her voice firm. "Not out of arrogance but out of principle. If we bow now, we'll never stand again." Over the next days, debates raged across the globe. The proposal was audacious, reckless even. Some called it a suicide mission, others a masterstroke of defiance. In the end, humanity came together, not through consensus but through necessity. They crafted their answer, an act of defiance condensed into a single, deliberate word. When the day of the meeting arrived, the 5 human delegates walked into the council chamber under the weight of countless eyes. The Galactic Council, with its intricate hierarchies and ancient customs, thrived on displays of power. The other species had arrived with grand processions, their tributes paraded with pride. Humanity entered with nothing but their presence, their faces calm but unyielding. The council leader, a being of immense stature whose features shimmered with a liquid brilliance, observed the humans with curiosity bordering on disdain. When the time came for humanity to present their tribute, the leader's voice resonated like thunder through the hall. "Humans, what do you offer to the council as tribute?" Ambassador Ward stepped forward, his posture measured and his expression unreadable. Behind him, Elena stood silent, her presence a steadying force. Ward's voice rang out, clear and resolute. "We offer a word." A ripple of disbelief passed through the chamber. A word. The absurdity of it was almost offensive. The council leader tilted their head, their tone icy. "A word." "Yes," Ward replied, unwavering. "A single word that defines our position and our tribute." The leader's eyes narrowed. "Speak, then." Ward paused, the moment stretching into a silence so profound it seemed to swallow the chamber. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight that no treasure could match. No. The word hung in the air, defiant and immovable. It was not a shout, not a plea, but a declaration, simple, uncompromising, and utterly human. For a moment, the chamber seemed frozen, as if the universe itself held its breath. The silence shattered as voices rose in protest and disbelief. Delegates shouted, their forms shifting with agitation. Some laughed, dismissing humanity as foolish upstarts. Others watched with quiet curiosity, their expressions unreadable. The council leader remained still, their shimmering form betraying no emotion. "You dare refuse the council's demand?" the leader asked, their voice low and dangerous. "We dare to define our place," Ward replied, his tone steady. "Tribute is submission. Submission is not our way." The leader's gaze bore into him, and for a moment, it seemed as if the full weight of the council's authority would crash down on the humans. But the moment passed, and the leader leaned back, their form rippling with restrained energy. "This is unprecedented," the leader said, their voice tinged with something that might have been respect or scorn. "The council will deliberate on your response." As humanity's delegation turned to leave, the chamber buzzed with speculation and tension. Elena allowed herself a small smile, her mind already racing ahead. They had delivered their answer, but the true battle was just beginning. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was a marvel of engineering and intimidation, its vaulted ceiling shimmering with the light of distant stars encased in translucent crystal. The air thrummed with an almost imperceptible vibration, a reminder that this was a place where the weight of countless civilizations converged. Humanity's delegation stepped forward, their polished boots clicking softly against the pristine floor. Their movements were deliberate, their expressions unreadable, yet there was no mistaking the quiet defiance in their stride. The chamber was alive with the presence of the galaxy's most powerful species. Delegates adorned in robes of flowing light or encased in armor as ancient as time itself turned their attention toward the humans. Some watched with curiosity, others with disdain. Whispers spread like wildfire, their tones oscillating between incredulity and scorn. Humanity had brought no tribute, no material offering to placate the council. It was a breach of tradition so bold it bordered on heresy. Dr. Elena Cass, standing slightly behind Ambassador James Ward, felt the intensity of their collective gaze but refused to falter. She tightened her grip on the datapad in her hands, though it contained no more than notes she already knew by heart. This was not a battle of documents or presentations. It was a battle of will, and she knew that every glance, every word, every breath they took would be scrutinized for weakness. The council leader, an immense, shimmering figure of light and substance, raised a hand to silence the growing murmurs. The air seemed to still as they leaned forward, their multifaceted eyes fixed on the humans. Their voice resonated like the echo of a collapsing star, commanding yet devoid of discernible emotion. "Humans, step forward." Ward obeyed, his gait steady, his expression calm. His suit, tailored to perfection, was the only outward show of effort he allowed himself. He stopped at the center of the chamber, standing before the council's elevated platform that dwarfed him in every conceivable way. But he did not bow, did not kneel, as so many others had before him. "You have come without tribute," the leader continued, their voice carrying across the vast hall. "Explain this affront." Ward inhaled slowly, his voice cutting through the charged silence. "It is not an affront. It is our answer." The statement rippled through the chamber like a shockwave. Gasps of disbelief erupted from various corners, while others leaned forward, intrigued. A hulking representative from a warrior species barked out something that sounded like laughter, their voice reverberating like thunder. The council leader raised their hand again, quelling the noise with a simple gesture. "Your answer." The leader's tone was razor-sharp. "You presume to defy the traditions of this council, upheld for millennia?" Elena felt her pulse quicken but maintained her composure. She had worked with Ward long enough to know he thrived in such moments. He stood taller now, his voice steady and measured. "We presume only to define ourselves," he said. "Tribute is submission, and submission is not the way of humanity." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in their native tongues, some in outrage, others in disbelief. The sheer audacity of Ward's words sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. The humans did not flinch, their formation unbroken as the storm of voices swirled around them. The council leader let the uproar continue for a moment, then struck their staff against the floor. The sound reverberated through the chamber, silencing the dissent with an authority that was absolute. Their gaze bore into Ward, as though attempting to unravel the mystery of this audacious species. "You bring a word," the leader said, their voice like ice. "A word cannot build fleets or feed armies. A word cannot hold the weight of stars. What value does this word hold?" Ward tilted his head slightly, his expression betraying no hint of doubt. "This word is more than a response. It is a declaration of who we are. It is the foundation upon which we stand." "And what then is this word?" the leader asked, their tone sharp, each syllable biting. "Speak it, and let this council judge the worth of your so-called tribute." Elena's breath caught in her chest. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them, the collective power of the galaxy waiting for Ward's answer. He stood unflinching, allowing the tension to build before he spoke. "No." The word hung in the air, stark and unyielding, echoing through the chamber with a finality that no treasure could rival. It was not shouted, nor was it whispered. It was delivered with the calm certainty of a people who knew their place in the universe and refused to surrender it. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, it seemed as though the chamber itself had forgotten to breathe. Then came the reaction, a cacophony of outrage and disbelief. Delegates rose from their seats, gesturing wildly, their protests merging into an incomprehensible roar. Some demanded immediate sanctions, others called for war. A few, far quieter, remained seated, their expressions unreadable. The council leader did not react immediately. Their form shimmered, shifting slightly as though processing what they had just heard. When they finally spoke, their voice was colder than before, laced with an almost imperceptible edge. "You believe that defiance alone will secure your survival?" Ward met their gaze without flinching. "We believe that dignity and independence are worth any price. If that is survival, so be it." The leader's gaze shifted, their eyes sweeping over the human delegation. Elena felt the intensity of that gaze as though it were a physical force, but she held her ground. The leader's voice resonated once more, quieter now but no less commanding. "The council will deliberate on your response. You will await our judgment." Ward inclined his head, not in deference but in acknowledgement. "We will." As the humans turned to leave, the chamber buzzed with unresolved tension. Elena glanced at Ward, her expression unreadable but her eyes burning with questions. Ward gave a subtle nod, a silent assurance that the moment was theirs. The Galactic Council was not used to being challenged. But humanity had just shown that even in the face of overwhelming power, they would not bow. The word had been spoken, and its weight was now on the shoulders of the galaxy to bear. The Council's deliberation stretched into days, a time of silence that rippled uneasily across the galaxy. On Earth, news of humanity's defiance spread like wildfire. The word had become a rallying cry, a single syllable imbued with unyielding strength. Yet, beneath the surface of public pride, there was tension, a fear that the Council's answer might come not in words but in the form of devastating retaliation. Dr. Elena Cass stood in her office overlooking the sprawling United Nations compound. The sky was a dull gray, matching her mood as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Fleets from several species loyal to the Council had been detected moving toward strategic positions near Earth sector. The veiled threat was unmistakable. The door opened behind her, and Ambassador James Ward entered, his expression unreadable. "They're forcing our hand," he said, dropping a tablet on her desk. The screen displayed projections of Earth's defensive capabilities against a potential multi-species assault. The odds weren't in humanity's favor. "They won't attack outright," Elena said, her voice firm but tinged with uncertainty. "A show of force, maybe. Sanctions. Blockades. But if they destroy us, they risk fracturing their own authority. Not every species supports their dominance." Ward leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. "You're banking on a fragile unity. What if it holds? What if they see us as a threat they can't afford to let grow?" Elena turned to face him, her expression hardened by the weight of her thoughts. "Then we prove we're not just a threat. We're a force of change." Ward raised an eyebrow. "Bold. Reckless. Even necessary," she shot back. "The Council has ruled through fear for millennia. But fear isn't invincible. It's a shadow, and shadows vanish in the light." Before Ward could respond, a sharp chime interrupted them. Elena tapped the panel on her desk, and the holographic form of a young officer flickered into view. "Ambassador Doctor," the officer began, his tone clipped. "We've received a summons from the Council. They've reached their decision." Ward exchanged a glance with Elena. "And they've requested your immediate presence. Alone." The Council's decision was both a judgment and a performance, designed to reinforce its dominance. The chamber was quieter than before, though the tension was palpable. Humanity's delegation had been reduced to two, Ward and Elena, underscoring their isolation. The leader's form loomed larger than ever, the shimmering brilliance of their figure casting long, sharp shadows across the chamber floor. The leader spoke, their voice a calculated blend of gravity and authority. "The Council has considered your response. It is unconventional, as is your species' nature." Ward remained still, his gaze steady. Elena, beside him, felt her pulse quicken, but she forced herself to focus. Every word, every pause, was a piece of the game being played. "Your refusal has sparked dissent," the leader continued. "Some among us see your defiance as admirable, a rare courage in a galaxy grown complacent. Others see it as insolence that must be punished." The chamber stirred. Delegates exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. Elena noted the subtle shifts, those who leaned forward with interest versus those whose bodies coiled with tension. The divide within the Council was real, and humanity's actions had widened it. "You must understand," the leader said, their tone softening but losing none of its weight, "that unity is the foundation of this Council. Your defiance threatens that unity." Ward stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Unity built on coercion is not unity. It's oppression with a kinder name." A murmur swept through the chamber, quickly silenced by the leader's raised hand. "You speak as though your species is beyond reproach, yet you bring chaos with your refusal. Why should the Council tolerate such disruption?" "Because the alternative is stagnation," Elena interjected, her voice carrying a sharp edge. "Your traditions have bound the galaxy for centuries, but they've also blinded you. Change is inevitable, and resisting it only ensures that when it comes, it will be violent." The leader's gaze shifted to her, their expression inscrutable. "You believe yourselves harbingers of this change?" "We believe in our right to choose," she replied. "And we believe others should have that same right." The silence that followed was oppressive. The leader seemed to study them, their shimmering form flickering slightly as though wrestling with some unseen force. Then, finally, they spoke. "Very well. Humanity's response will not go unanswered, but neither will it be crushed. Your defiance will be tolerated, on one condition." Elena and Ward exchanged a quick glance, bracing themselves. "You will stand as a test," the leader said. "A symbol for those who would follow your path. Should you falter, should your defiance crumble, it will serve as a warning to others. And should you succeed, the Council will have no choice but to adapt." Ward nodded slowly, his expression resolute. "We accept." The leader's tone hardened. "Know this, the galaxy will watch you, not with hope, but with expectation of failure. If you cannot withstand the storms you have called upon yourselves, you will be swept away." Elena stepped forward. "Then we'll ensure the storm changes the landscape, not us." The leader's form flickered again, then solidified. "So be it. The Council is adjourned." As the chamber emptied, Elena and Ward walked side by side, their pace steady but their thoughts racing. The leader's words had confirmed what they already knew. Humanity's defiance had sparked a chain reaction. Their survival would depend not only on their strength but on their ability to inspire others. Back on Earth, the news of the Council's decision sent ripples of both relief and resolve. Humanity had been given a chance, not a reprieve, but a test of their mettle and their ideals. As Ward addressed the global audience, his voice carried the weight of both warning and hope. The galaxy is watching, he said. Not to see us succeed, but to see if we'll break. We won't. Because this isn't just about humanity. It's about something greater, a future where no species must bow to another. A future where we all stand as equals. Elena, watching from the side, felt a quiet surge of determination. The council had handed them a challenge, but it was also an opportunity. They had refused tribute, but in doing so, they had offered something far greater, a vision. The storm was coming, and humanity would not stand alone.